One of the biggest technical challenges with blockchain technology is scalability. In the current Bitcoin blockchain, proof of work is the consensus algorithm, the way by which the distributed computing system makes updates to the ledger balances, and the truth state of the network. And proof of work is a costly mechanism. There are 7,000 mining machines worldwide making expensive guesses. It's called proof of work because each participant, each mining computer in the system has to do a computational effort to deter that's costly and uses electricity and other resources. And the benefit of performing this proof of work is that they might win the reward, and so it's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile economic proposition to conduct this proof of work to potentially get the Bitcoin rewards from doing so. However, the system is thought to not be scalable at a proof of work kind of computational method. We might use all of the available electricity on the planet, for example, just to power a few economic transactions. And so we might need some other kind of method besides proof of work for updating the truth state, the ledger balances, in a decentralized network. And so proof of stake is an alternative method that has been suggested. Proof of stake is that there would be certain owners of the network, validators, that would put down coin as a deposit or escrow or bond for the ability to perform network accounting transactions or accounting functions to validate and log the transactions. However, these proof of stake mechanisms are overly complicated and convoluted and tend to involve multiple rounds of voting structures and the same old hierarchical human-based power structures that we're trying to avoid. So I'm referring to proof of stake methods proposed by several parties: Ethereum, Tendermint Cosmos, Dfinity, and Polkadot would be some examples, and Stellar as well. These are all very well thought out methods by some very smart individuals. However, I think that the issue is that they're still human-based power structures and thus could have the agency problem. So we really need, in a decentralized network, a mechanism that is itself completely distributed and computationally based. And the trust comes from that kind of a network where all of the computation is baked into the operation of the network, and we're not relying on human parties making decisions. Anything could happen in the future with how the proof of stake methods are decided, and if I have coin on that network, I might not have the ability to have a say in that decision, as opposed to if I have coin on another kind of network that's administered, the accounting functions are administered a different way, then I might more trustably be able to move my coin if conditions changed. So I think the farther future for massive adoption and scalability of blockchain networks is going to need to be in a consensus algorithm that's neither proof of work nor proof of stake based. And instead, we would rely on the same kinds of principles that we've started developing these cryptographic networks with. For example, entropy generation, one-way hashes, and Merkle trees. And we can use these kinds of principles to bake into the network software the trustable logging of transactions. Certainly, there would still be a transaction fee and some reward to the system for performing this network maintenance function of logging transactions, but it doesn't need to be as high stakes as the proof of work function. The rewards don't need to be that high. In a network, we could have partitioned zones or network ecologies, a smart network ecologies, where the setup is that different regions of the network provide the mining function or the accounting transaction logging function for other parts of the network. So for example, in a smart home Internet of Things network, we could have the bathroom sensors would mine for the kitchen sensors. In other words, just confirm, validate, and log the transactions. It really doesn't need to be a sophisticated operation, it just needs to be secure. So one of the reasons with a collaborator, there has been some application of complexity math to analyzing the complexity of the proof of work and proof of stake systems. And so, for example, the proof of work system, it has high entropy but also high order, and therefore is not complex. It's more like an analogy of a fair coin toss. So if we apply Crutchfield's statistical complexity measure to it, it probably has a statistical complexity of about 0, which is exactly like a fair coin toss. There's high randomness, but we know it's going to be either heads or tails. The opposition is more chaotic systems, which tend to disorder, and this would be like the oscillating behavior of a planar pendulum. And this has lower entropy, but much higher disorder. And this is more of what a proof of stake system is. In a human voting system, we would be oscillating between the votes confirmed or not confirmed. And so the argument would be that a proof of stake system has a much higher degree of complexity as measured by Crutchfield's statistical complexity measure, and is therefore not productive and perhaps not scalable, and might tend to chaos and fatter tail unexpected results in a worldwide financial computing network, which is not the kind of situation that we would like. So even some basic statistical analysis with complexity paradigms suggests that the proof of stake method is perhaps overly convoluted and not scalable, and that the proof of work consensus algorithm method is good but costly for other reasons, and therefore further supports my claim that using the same network principles of cryptography, of the entropy generation of the network itself, we never know where the next guess might come from. That entropy generation is something we can harness from a Shannon information signal processing perspective to use as a cryptographic trust-making parameter and incorporate into a Merkle tree and a one-way hash. And so baking the mining function, which is really just an accounting function of transaction validation and logging, we want to bake all of this into the network in a computational method, and that would be the scalable, trustful way to go, and also deliver a regime of low complexity, which would be a resilient financial network for us in the future.